Coming up on Trench Life, we catch up with the only back-to-back winner of the Joe Moore Award, the head coach of the University of Michigan, Sherrone Moore. Plus, we break down some keys to the game for Michigan and Ohio State in this week's Big Ugly Spotlight. Trench Life starts now. Welcome into Trench Life. Now do me a favor and smash those like and subscribe buttons like you did that extra piece of pumpkin pie so we keep bringing you all this great O-line content. In this week's Big Ugly Spotlight, we focus on the big game, the big one in the Big Ten between Michigan and Ohio State. And there's a reason the Buckeyes are the number one team in the country, and if they want to stay that way, their O-line has to do this. One of Ohio State's best runs lately is the counter. Now, they only put 6 in the box, so they're a man short. They also use the wrong arm technique and try to scrape the linebacker here, and the backside guard and tight ends sort this out. They do a really nice job here. Now, Michigan has to be ready, and that starts with having the right numbers in the box, which can get tricky when you've got elite receivers on the outside like Ohio State does. But good play side double team, hit the backer, bounce it, and Bo Jackson is bye-bye. Great job by the left guard getting downfield, too. Red zone run game is everything in this matchup. Now, Ohio State's been cooking with a pin and pull, toss crack type scheme where you take advantage of some outside leverage, some angle blocks, and then have some pullers in space to be able to create some room for Bo Jackson to find the seam, plant his foot, and get vertical. It's basically stretch zone with crisscrossing blockers because down here, whoever can run it or stop it probably wins this game. Now, you may be asking yourself, what in the hell does this play have to do with the offensive line? Well, the answer to that question is nothing, but it does demonstrate a beautiful job by Brandon Ennis running a little sneak technique as he hides and gets out off some play action. But the real star of the show here is Julian Sand, the quarterback for Ohio State, who's playing at an extremely high level. There's also a little treat for dessert on the back end that has to do with this Michigan game. Now, I'll say this. This is beautiful. Now, before you start hating and leaving comments and saying I should put it on the all 22 from the angle, I'm an O-lineman, so I'm looking at it from high end zone. But the arc and location on this football are extraordinary, especially with pressure in your face. And to be a freshman like Sand is and to have the composure that he's shown and demonstrated all year has been a thing of beauty. Boom! Drops it in the bucket to Ennis. So that's the touchdown, but here's where Michigan comes in. Come on, 98. Whoa, big fella. Don't be coming in there and getting a penalty. You'll be jacked up, full of emotion, and if that's Michigan, that's going to be a flag, and that could hurt your team. I can't wait to see this game and where it goes. Now, on the other side of the ball, the Michigan Wolverines want to play spoiler to the Buckeyes' special season, and if that's going to happen, it all starts up front. Here, Michigan's running an outside zone concept, which means these 3 blockers have these 3 defenders. Now, this isn't an easy job considering the center's got to reach that 3 technique. The guard has to be able to take over this wide 5, and the tackle is purportedly going to be able to take this scraping linebacker who, fortunately for them, has bad eyes and blocks himself. So let's take a look at how this play starts out. Boom. That's exactly what it is you want. You've got this nice wall built here. You've got a crack block here on the outside. You got your wide receivers going to come outside and be another lead blocker. So the stress point on this play is right here, this backside linebacker. The guard misses him, and the linebacker tries to run underneath, which he shouldn't do. If you go underneath like that, you better make the tackle. But because it's front door, he misses it. If Ohio State doesn't block this up or fit it better than Maryland does here, it could be a long afternoon just like it was last year. Pass protection is passive-aggressive. You're given a little ground but doing it on your own terms, and that's why the punch matters so much. It's like a boxer's jab. It keeps the defenders honest, and here's a couple great shots of Michigan's offensive line doing that here. Take a look at the right tackle. He's going to set, be patient with his hands, and boom, he shoots and wins immediately and stones the defender, who's immediately got to go to his second move. Now, he did a really good job with his initial punch, but he loses with his left hand here, and the defender's got his right arm to his chest. But one of the things I love is watch what the tackle does. He resets his hand right there. Learning to use your hands and reset when you win, lose, and re-win again is a critical element of being a successful pass blocker and one of the great tells of units that are coached well. Now let's take a look at the guard here, see what he does. Boom, he flashes, shoots his hands. The defender tries to swipe him away, but because he's not leaning, he takes a good set. He re-wins and reestablishes, gets his hands back inside and stones. Then the center comes over to help him. You got a good job by this guard coming down in pass protection, slide. It's slide protection. So what these guys are doing is he's blocking here, he's blocking here. These two have this linebacker, and this guy's one-on-one here. So the guard's coming down. He's going to take over 98 that frees the center up, and he's going to win with his hands and then throw him here at the end. All really good jobs. And then finally, let's take a look at this tackle. Little different proposition here. Boom. Okay, this is interesting because right now this could go either way. You never want to end up with your right arm, if you're the left tackle here, to be collapsed into your body. But again, he does a good job of resetting it. That defender's got his hands to his chest, but if you look closely here, the offensive tackle's won with inside leverage with his left hand and is able to stay in front of the defender. It is never clean. It is never perfect. But if you use your hands well, you do a good job of creating a pocket that your young quarterback can take advantage of, set his feet, and deliver a dime. One of my favorite goal line calls is G lead. It's power football at its finest, old school, baby. And Michigan runs it as well as anybody. You're going to get double teams and down blocks play side, where the play side guard's going to pull away from the football, kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. Your fullback's going to go sweep up any trash that ends up in the hole, either with this safety here or this scraping linebacker here, and the rest has to be up to Bryson Kutzall. Now, here's exactly what it is you want. You create that wall. You got your kick-out blocker here. This guy's isolated in the hole. He don't want none. And you see this linebacker, he's peeking right here. He's going to scrape across, and Kutzall is going to do the rest. Now, I'm telling you, one of the things that Michigan does well is power football running game deep on the goal line or in the red zone. That's going to be a critical part of this game. And in my opinion, they're better at it than Ohio State is. And they're going to have to be. Michigan's going to want to keep this a low-scoring game, so when they get opportunities in the red zone, they better execute like this. Ooh-wee! I can't wait to watch that one. He who rushes for the most yards wins. All right, now as we were all prepping for Thanksgiving with our families and maybe a little bit of football, I got a chance to catch up with two-time Joe Moore Award winner Sherrone Moore as Michigan gets set to play Ohio State this weekend. Let's go in the trenches, presented by DonJoy. The first time ever back-to-back award winner, the Joe Moore Award in 2021 and 2022. You were coaching those lines back at the time, and I remember, and I was trying to find my shirt that said Smash because it felt like it just described what those units were about. What do you remember from those years and those groups in particular?
I just remember a unity, a togetherness, a bond of guys that were always around each other. And you know, that bond was built in the wintertime. It was built when they first got here. And even the implementation of having a guy like Olu come in versus having Andrew Vistardis, you know, a guy who'd been here for 6 years was Andrew, and then Olu being here. You know, we always had a nucleus of guys with the Trevor Keegans, the Zach Zinners, the Carson Barnharts, the Trente Jones, the Geos, all of the different guys that were around. But I just remember the guys were so tight-knit and so close. You know, the training they had in the off seasons, the things they did together, going out together, hanging out together. You know, obviously on the field and how they played with such physicality and violence and finishing and all the things, you know, that I hope we represented, you know, as winning the Joe Moore Award. But it was just such a close group. And I think that's the key to having a great offensive line, is a group that not only plays well on the field, but are so close together off the field.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week, just on a personal call, about kind of the state of the O-line union and what's going on, especially with the world of NIL and the portal and how much that negatively impacts that culture that you seem to have. You did it successfully with a guy like Olu, but it's clear that you want to draft and develop basically and make sure that you keep that cohesion in. As you kind of zoom out and look around college football, Sherrone, what do you see and what are the impacts on our position?
I mean, I think, when you first started recruiting offensive linemen and recruiting the position and building those all lines, all you thought about was, okay, how do you recruit the best kids out of high school? How do you develop them? And you hope they develop fast enough where they can become a starter. If they're not, they're going to challenge this guy to be a starter, and you're just going to get them bigger, faster, stronger, and you can get different body types, right? There's the taller guys, more lean guys with wide shoulders, big frames that you can grow into those tackles, or sometimes a defensive lineman would become an offensive lineman, and it would be within the framework of your team. Now the landscape is so different. There's so many teams that build it so many different ways, and there's not any wrong way, but the traditionalists of, getting a kid from high school, building that, it's just changed. In some programs, it's that way. We want to try to keep, get the best high school kids we can have and build them up and make them the best part of that group to keep that, connection. But, there's guys that sometimes you got to fill holes. We did that here, building, getting the centerpiece and maybe you might need a tackle here or a guard here. And that's just what it is now. That's just how you have to operate, and you got to adapt to that, the landscape of what it is right now. But I think everybody has their own recipe of how they want to cook the sauce, right? And you just have to have whatever works for you and your culture and your team. But at the end of the day, you got to be connected, and it's got to be five eyes, five set of eyes through one lens, and that's how you really build a real great offensive line.
Man, it's interesting though, because like you talked to, like, built different in our position used to
Yeah.
mean something. We all knew what that universally
Yeah.
meant. I know it's hard because you're locked into the Big Ten Conference, but we're looking at units in leagues across the nation. What I'm seeing is teams scheming around their offensive lines, a lot like we saw with the hurry up, no huddle spread.
Yeah.
And one of the criteria we've used that you've knocked out of the park, not only this year, but back in 21 and 22 when you were the first repeat winner of the Joe Moore Award, is this team winning because of the offensive line or despite it? Are they scheming around that position or running the entire offense through it? What are you seeing?
I mean, I agree. I think there's a little bit of both in every, team that you watch and everything that you do. There's strengths and weaknesses to every offensive line. Even the ones that we had, I felt like there was things that we had to help them with, but also we felt like we could win games behind their back. And I thought that was a mentality that our players have really carried on. And, being the head coach here, that's something I want to carry on for the rest of the time that I am here. Have an offensive line that we can count on when we need to be able to win games with. And obviously, we've got a talented quarterback. We've got some skilled players that we feel are really talented. I want to be able to use those assets around. But, for the specifics of the offensive line in college football now, there's a lot of offensive lines that, they're winning in spite of the offensive line, whether they're, only, nakeding, doing these things and scheming around what they do and not really, allowing the offensive line to be on attack. It's a lot of, passive, whatever that is. And that's, to each their own. Some teams are winning because of it. Some teams are not. And in the world of, the offensive lineman and our mentality, you want to be the hammer, not the nail. And, you got to feel that. So, like, as long as I'm here and coaching football just in general, I feel like the offensive line has to be that hammer to put you in a position to help you win football games and not do it in spite of them.
It's really interesting, man. It seemed like post that USC game that's when the calluses really started to take place on both sides of the football, with the ability to stop the run, but also running the football over 250 yards over the last 3 games and 10 rushing touchdowns, with a bunch of dudes coming in and out, a bunch of injuries back there. How proud are you of this team? And am I reading what that USC game seems to have meant to your organization?
I mean, super proud. I don't know if I've ever been a part, and I don't know, what the other semifinalists as far as grades and who's playing and what. It'd be hard pressed to find 3 redshirt freshmen starting on the offensive line in most college football teams, especially one that is, has all the goals in front of them. So I'm super proud of this offensive line. I'm super proud of the team in general, the O-line, the D-line, everybody, all the skill guys, the coaches for, putting their best foot forward, and then really proud of how the resiliency of this last game, because you're not supposed to win with 5 turnovers. And to go out there and throw big third downs and then run the ball to get the ball in position to kick the field goal, that's what a true team win's all about.
Yeah, winning ugly still counts, man.
Right.
So in terms of development, I'm curious about your own journey. How have you grown as a coach?
Oh man, so many ways. I try every single day to learn something different, whether that's from a player, whether that's from a coach, that's whether from a mentor of mine. There's so many things that whether it be, from a position coach to a coordinator, I had to learn how to, manage people and delegate things. And that was a big step for me because I'd never really done that. As a position coach, you do everything yourself. I had a GA, but I would do stuff myself. And then a coordinator, you try and do all these things, but you got all these position coaches, right? And you got to manage the whole side of the ball. So that was a learning curve. But now being a head coach, it's the same thing. It's you're the CEO of a important Fortune 500 company, and you've got to do everything a certain way. But I've started to create my own way of doing it. Right, the first year, there's a lot of things that Jim did that I want to do, but I knew I couldn't do because I'm not Jim. So as I've learned how to control, as I've learned how to be the head coach of the football program, there's things that are the same, there's things that's different. But growth and comfort don't coexist. So you've got to be able to be uncomfortable and put yourselves in comfortable positions to grow. And I felt like we've done that as a program. I've done that myself, and we'll continue to do that.
So look, I know there's a rather big game coming up against a team that's kind of reddish down south. So I'm not going to ask you to make any predictions or any of that, but I will ask you, I know the importance of that game. Just what are some of your favorite memories from that contest and why?
I mean, I think, obviously we got a big game this weekend, but I would say that team, it's an historic rivalry. It's one that it's the biggest game of the year, every year. It's called the game for a reason. But it's the memories I have are from, obviously from the wins, but from the losses too. You learn a lot. You learn a lot from the losses. You learn what not to do. You learn how you got there and what that happened. But just being able to compete against that team every year means the world to me, means the world to our program, and it's going to be a fun battle.
So speaking of wins and losses, sometimes at Thanksgiving there's wins and losses on side dishes.
That's right.
Give me your top 3 or 4, some of your catastrophes maybe on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite holidays. This is an O-line show. Let's get into some side dishes, bro.
All right, side dishes. I'll give you my procedure of what I do. So we'll have our practice on Thanksgiving Day before that game, and we do it early in the morning so everybody can get with their families and hang out and do stuff, and then we'll leave and go have Thanksgiving. So I always wait till food's about ready, whenever that is. I'm gonna grab my plate. I'm usually the last one to get food. Grab my plate, turkey or fried turkey. Honey baked ham is an option now too.
Ooh, strong.
Good one, strong one. I'm gonna get the sweet potato casserole first on the side. I'm gonna get my green bean casserole as well with the French onion, with the onion tips on the side. I gotta get some macaroni, like macaroni pie or whatever, and then I have to have a Hawaiian roll. I gotta get 2 Hawaiian rolls, and like I'm good there. And I could have dessert, like there's this Oreo cheesecake dessert that my family makes, my wife makes. It's really good, but like that's my plate. I'll get 1, 1.5, and then it's nap time because by that time I haven't slept all week, and then it's time to take a nap.
That tryptophan kick in and you out.
They kill you, bro.
Well, man, that sounds a lot like what I do. And I'm saying those Hawaiian rolls, those will up level anything you do. I've made French toast with those bad boys.
That sounds
Pulled
good.
pork shoulders I make with those bad boys. My favorite side dish was this stuff called cranberry fluff salad. It was basically like a cranberry salad, but it had walnuts and Cool Whip, pineapple in it, cranberries obviously ground up, and a ton of sugar, man. And by day 2, it was always better. So my mom would make it the night before.
Yeah.
If I had a plate that was this big, 3/4 of it was cranberry fluff salad, and I have this little piece of turkey, a little bit of greens, and some macaroni, and I was good. So when I want to remember Mama Bear and Thanksgiving and all the things that I have to be grateful for, I'm gonna bust out some cranberry fluff salad.
That's awesome.
Love it, man. Well, hey, I'm going to let you get out of here. I know you got a bunch of stuff to do, but I appreciate you hopping on Trent's Life, man. It's been a pleasure watching you do what you do on the field, but also getting to know you as a man and as a father and as a head football coach. Continued success and have fun in the game.
No, I appreciate it, man. Go Blue.
Oh, look at you. You made it all the way to the end, grinding through like it's play 18 or 9 on 7. So pancake that subscribe, smash that like button, and pull around the corner to share this with your buddy. Trent's life rolls best when the whole crew's in the huddle.